Manitoba in March or February, and it's not supposed to have freezing rain. And it was a freezing rain, snow,
Oh,
catastrophe.
oh, you're still here.
I'm still here. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's a good thing.
So thanks for joining me today.
Hey, man, thanks for the invite. I'm looking forward to it.
This is fantastic. I love the backdrop. It is so I when I have guests on the show here, I always like to ask the question whether it's real or whether it's Memorex or it's fake.
Yeah.
And you are displaying a relatively impressive.
I have a little bit of a book problem, Keith. That's really what's going on here.
So
If we could spend some time and talk about that would be
that
that might be helpful.
So the first question I have for you, Mr. Attaway, is it all categorized by the Dewey Decimal System?
It is not.
So you don't have that bad ADHD then?
Not quite. No.
So okay, we're here then. What is the organizational process, Mr. Attaway, of your books?
Most by topic.
Okay.
Several sections by author.
Oh, by author. Okay. And how many books are in the collection?
I'll tell you, this is not all of them.
I knew when I asked the question, I saw the smoke coming out of the ears, and I'm thinking, he's going, is he asking me how many books that I have? Because he doesn't see what I don't have in front of the camera.
There's more.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love to read. I think if I can read and learn from other people's challenges and mistakes and learning, and I don't have to make all the mistakes myself.
Yes.
Why would I not do that?
Yes. That's why I knew we were going to get along today when I did a little bit of my research on you. I don't read books, William. Is it William or Bill? William. Yeah. I don't read. I wish I read books. I don't. I read articles. I read the internet. And you know what?
Sure.
Last week I finished it, and then I woke up and it fucking restarted again. There's a whole bunch of new pages, William. I was like, I thought I was done.
That's the internet. Just when you get to the end.
When you get to the end. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, Sam launches the new GPT tool. I'm like, oh, I got a bunch more books to read.
Exactly.
I can appreciate your comments. I love to read too. And I think that's why I'm enjoying this show so much and meeting people like yourself so much, because it's just another book to read. It's another topic to learn, but it's another conversation to have. So
absolutely. You can learn from anybody.
I
say this all the time. You can learn from anybody. Sometimes you might learn what not to do.
Yes.
But that's okay. That could be incredibly valuable.
100%. So I want to stay on the collection. So what kind of book is it? Fiction, nonfiction, biography, memoir, all kinds. But I'm very curious. Let's keep talking.
Really, all of them. I love to read biographies. I love to learn from people in the past.
Yes.
I love to learn from their stories.
Yes.
Their wins, their fails.
Yes.
Because there's so many things that I can glean from that and I can share with other people. I love to read fiction because that fires the creative juices, right?
Yeah, it does.
I think any leader that's not reading fiction is missing out on some really great fodder that will help you lead better, because the best leaders I know are storytellers.
That's a profound statement. I've never thought about it that way. But when I think of myself, I consider myself a leader. I consider myself a great leader. I like to tell stories. I like to paint a picture. I like to create a narrative. I was talking to a colleague this morning about a story that we're going to begin telling in June, but I had to plant the seed today.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, because people don't know about the story coming in June, but they needed to know something was coming today. And that's what I love about storytelling and leadership, right? Is that when you're like, okay, team, we're really telling the audience in December this, but we're starting here in January this. And they're like, what, William? What, Keith? No, it's a story. There's an arc to it.
Yes. And just like a movie, just like a great book.
Yeah.
There's an arc to it.
Yes.
You don't start with the main point, the main plot, right? You start and you set the stage.
Yes. So I have done a really horrible job setting the stage of our discussion today, because we jumped right into William's love of books, but to hell with it. I'm a little bit unorthodox with the way I do things. So I've done no justice to introducing William Attaway to the program today. And I had a podcast expert tell me 2 weeks ago, former radio industry veteran, saying, Keith, you can't let the guests introduce themselves. Yet over and over, William, I always let the guests introduce themselves. Mr. Attaway, where are you coming from? Tell the audience about you in less than a minute.
Ooh, less than a minute. Here we go. So I'm originally from Birmingham, Alabama. I currently live in Northern Virginia, outside of Washington, D.C. I'm an executive coach. I've been coaching leaders in the entrepreneurial space, C-suite leaders, for almost 3 decades now. And that's what I love. I love helping entrepreneurs and founders get out of their own way because so often I find that they break their own businesses. And I help them figure out a way not to do that so they can hit the capacity that they know they're capable of.
Man, that's like 48 seconds. Congratulations, Mr. Tyler. That's awesome. And as you were speaking, it struck me that, of course, you're a successful executive coach. And of course, you've been doing this for 30 years because you're doing all the hard work for all of your customers by reading all that knowledge behind you and saying, hey, I've read this great memoir about this person. I've learned about this human being and they did this. Maybe we might want to consider this.
Yeah. Absolutely. That I think that's part of what I can bring. Not only do I constantly take in content because I do, whether it's books, podcasts, whatever it is, I'm constantly drawing in. But I also have that knowledge base of almost 30 years of leaders that I've worked with, their wins, their fails, their journeys, what they've been through. And I bring all that to bear when I come to work with a client, and they can benefit from all of that without having to go through all of it.
Yes. Yeah. So let's go back. Let's go back previous to 30 years. Let's go 31 years back.
Ooh, all right, let's go.
Yeah. What got you to executive coaching? So what was the aha moment that moved you out of, this isn't working anymore, I'm going to become an executive coach?
It would go back to when I was a teenager, Keith. When I was a teenager, I was 15 years old when I was invited to attend my first leadership conference. And
Okay.
that seems a little young, right? Who invites a 15-year-old?
Mhm.
But I had a high school teacher who saw something in me that I did not see in myself.
Mhm.
He saw potential.
Mhm.
And he said, I think you could benefit from this. I went, I listened, I learned, and I was hooked by the power of a great leader. And I've been a student of leadership now going on 40 years. I've been trying to discover what it is that makes a great leader truly catalytic. What makes a leader who makes a difference in their organization, in their team, in their field, in their world? And in the process of learning and growing myself as a leader, as a practitioner, I've come alongside so many others and helped them to take the next steps in their journey, to help them to grow intentionally, to help them to thrive, not just survive the day to day that so many entrepreneurs are really just trying to keep their head above the waterline.
So what makes not a good, not a great, an exceptional leader, William?
Hmm. The number one non negotiable of what I call catalytic leadership, number one non negotiable
Yeah.
is the teachable spirit.
So in other words, me as a leader. So let's teach me. Okay. So teach on
Absolutely.
the chief Bapl. So you're coaching me today.
Yeah.
So the number one non-negotiable attribute for me is to be constantly learning as a leader.
Every day, you and I have the opportunity to get up and say, I'm going to be the most teachable person in every conversation I'm in today.
Mhm.
I'm going to be the most teachable person in every environment, every meeting I'm in.
Mhm.
I'm going to be the most teachable person with every person I interact with.
Mhm.
Because, like I said earlier, you can learn from anybody, right? But I'm going to choose, I'm going to pre decide before I'm in any meetings, in any situations, I'm going to pre decide to be the most teachable person in the room, asking, what can I learn here? Too many people walk into those environments saying, what can I say here? What can I teach here? Now, what can I learn here? That's a better question. That's what distinguishes truly great leaders.
Mhm. Or another way of looking at it, what can I take from today's meeting? What can I take from it? Right.
Yes,
Yeah. So
absolutely.
take, lead, learn, but interesting, right? Not what can I give to the meeting today?
Mhm.
What can I take from it?
Yes, yes, asterisk. And I'll put an asterisk there
Go with me there.
because that teachable spirit is the first part.
Yes.
That's the posture that you enter in with.
Yes.
My goal in every environment that I'm in every meeting, in every conversation, in every session that I'm in with a client, my goal is how can I add value to this person? How
Of
can I add
course. Yes.
value to this
Yes.
organization? How can I
Yes.
add value to this leader? My posture is to be teachable. In other words, the opposite of being arrogant, haughty,
Mhm.
prideful. I want
Mhm.
to be teachable because I think there's something I need to learn, but I also want to add value. I want to be a conduit of what I'm learning to add value to the people around me.
So you've been doing this 30 years. I'm going to make some guesses in my head. I'm going to speculate that The leaders in their 30s and their 40s are the hotties or the know-it-alls. The leaders in their 40s and their 50s are adapting to maybe not knowing everything. The leaders in their 50s are just want to learn. They just want to learn. They want to absorb. They want to be curious. Am I right? Because I probably was that category from 30 to 50. 30, I can do everything, man. I'm like, nah, I just know it all. I know it. And then during the 40s, as I was transitioning in life and growing up, oh, maybe I don't know everything. I should listen a little more.
Yeah.
Now that I'm just celebrated 52 on the weekend.
Awesome.
Happy
birthday.
Thank you. I just want to listen, absorb, be curious, and add value where I find my spots to add value.
Yeah, I think there is some truth there. And I think if you're going to paint with broad strokes, there is some truth to this understanding that you don't gain real perspective until you gain some mileage on your odometer.
Yeah.
I think there is some truth there. I will say
Yeah.
that it is not 100%. And I say that because just before this interview, I was working with a client who's in his 20s.
Okay.
And I commented and said, "You are one of the most teachable people that I work with." And this is why he has moved from what was not even a six-figure business when we started. Now he just crossed the seven-figure line and he's on his way to the eight-figure line, right? That is because he approaches things exactly like we're talking about with that teachable spirit. He's in his 20s. That makes him exceptional.
Yes.
So it's not a hard and fast.
And rare.
Very rare.
Because when I've had some people on this show, I had I think a 20 some odd young man, got off the call with him, and I looked at my wife and I'm like, I think I sat with a 50-year-old in disguise of a 20-year-old because of his wisdom and his knowledge and the way that he spoke. And it struck me about how far ahead he was. I would think, and I'm just drawing a broad brush here, but compared to other 20 somethings. So to your point, they do exist.
They do. And more can.
Yes.
It's a choice.
Yes.
And this is the part that some people struggle with. You have the ability to change this about yourself.
Yes.
Every person who's watching or listening to this, you have the ability to change this about yourself. If that's not who you are today, congratulations. You can change that tomorrow. You simply have to choose to make it. As I've heard said many times, whatever you are not changing, you are choosing. Who's the active agent there? You are.
Yeah. Yeah. Choice is an interesting thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's one of the most powerful things I know. And a lot of people would rather be a victim. Oh, if I just had a better team. Oh, if I just had better clients. If I just had if the economy was better. Oh, if it wasn't an election. You pick your poison.
Always an excuse.
There's always a reason.
Yes.
There's always an excuse.
Yes.
But that's because you're playing the victim.
Yes.
I've got a better way for you. You can choose. You decide.
Yes. William, how do you get your customers in the executive coaching business?
Oh, some by referral. A lot of my clients are pleased with the experience they've had with me, so they tell other people. Some I do a lot of work on LinkedIn. That's the social media that I'm most active on. So I create a lot of content there. And once a month, I host a webinar and usually have 200-300 people who register for those and hear the content that I share. And then they reach out and say, "Hey, I'd like to have a conversation." And so I speak at different events. When I speak at a conference or workshops or whatnot for different organizations, that can be a place that people come from, clients come from. So there's a lot of different places. These are intentional places that I pour energy and effort into what's working. But that's what's been working so far.
I asked the question because I've been fortunate to speak with many coaches over the time of starting the lab here. And it's always been intriguing to me about how we all build our businesses and how we all build our tribes and how we all go build people that want to hear our messages. Right. Because at the end of the day, our messages are all relatively similar. What we're ultimately selling is William Attaway and the books that William has read and the way that William frames his conversations, his questions, his comments, his opinions. Is that not what it is at the end of the day, William?
No, I think you're spot on. I think you're spot on. Everybody has a different perspective. I've got a different take on things than you might. And I think when we come together and we share notes and we share ideas, we can learn from each other.
Yeah.
And this is the value, I believe, of having a coach. I've had coaches for so long. I can't even remember how long I've had coaches for now because they help me see what I can't see. You can't see the whole picture when you're in the frame. You can't do it. You can't read the label when you're inside the bottle. You can't do it. You need somebody on the outside who's going to ask you questions that maybe nobody else in your world is going to ask you to help you see what you need to see. That's why I benefit from people who have helped me to scale and grow my business, my practice far beyond anything I could have done alone. And that's what I help others do today.
Talk about that. Talk about scaling your business and building it further than what you had even thought in your own head. Talk about that experience of 30 years into this thing, growing it to where it is today.
Most coaches can't fathom a six-figure coaching practice. They're like, oh man, it'd be amazing. I can't even, most of the coaches that I talk to, they can't dream that big. They don't dream that big, I should say. They choose not to dream that big.
Going to,
well done.
Wait a minute here.
Choose not to dream that big.
Yeah. Because let's, if I can interrupt you, let's hang on this comment.
Yeah.
Why do so many executive or business or leading coaches struggle to make the six-figure year income?
Boy, there's as many answers to that as how much time do we have? We could put one a minute and not run out. I think one is a lack of intentionality. One is a lack of teachability. One is a lack of willingness to put your money where your mouth is. Any coach that you know of who doesn't have a coach themselves, who's pouring into them, who that they're learning from, who's further down the road than they are, that makes me nervous when somebody doesn't believe enough in what they do that they're doing it with someone else. Like that makes me really nervous. I'm not going to be into that. One of the first questions I have for any coach I work with is, who are you learning from? Who's coaching you right now?
Interesting. Yeah.
Because I want to know that they're growing, that they're learning.
What if the answer would be life? So let's do a role play.
Sure.
Right. So I'm coached by life. I'm coached by my children. I'm coached by my wife. I'm coached by my experiences.
Sure.
I'm coached by everything I read, I'm coached by you. I'm fortunate to meet a guest I do a live show every single day. So I meet a human being every single day that I'm coached by. I believe that my experiences building my social media company and selling it and all those adds value to my discussion with you if I was to coach you.
100%.
That still would not be enough for you though.
Here's
I'm curious.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And while there are exceptions to every rule, and you should never play hard and fast.
Yeah.
There are also guidelines and principles that you need to follow. And this is a principle for me. It's a guideline.
Yes.
It's not a hard and fast. But let's take it this way.
It's a good one though. Like I've never thought about it the way you have. It's a great one. It's the same way when I ask a financial advisor going, okay, so because I asked the guy this once before, I said, so you're 60. I said, what are you doing? So if I'm investing in you as a human, what's your plans when you're gone? Like, who's taking over my money? He's, oh, nobody's ever asked that before. I'm like, I'd like to know.
Yeah, it's a good question.
It is. I've never considered it the way you framed it, William, which is, well, sure, Keith, you can coach me, but who's coaching you? My own mirror?
What? Yeah, the life answer is true. Every one of us is coached by life. Absolutely. The experiences we have make us who we are. I believe there's no such thing as a wasted experience.
Right.
But here's what I know too, that experience does not make you any better. Evaluated experience is what makes you better.
Oh.
Okay. So you can have 30 years of experience that is really just 1 year repeated over and over again and never getting any better.
If you don't do anything about those experiences, you've learned nothing.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Bingo.
You failed for, again, a guest taught me, if you've gained feedback for 30 years in a row.
Yes. That's evaluated experience. That's what makes you better. And we see this all around us. We see people who have been in the same job for 10, 20, 30 years, but they're really not a whole lot better than they were year one. Why? Because they're not growing. They're not evaluating. And that's the value of a coach. A coach is one who's going to help you to evaluate your experience so you can talk through what's working. Why is it working? One of my mentors taught me this years ago, and I've never forgotten it. He said, if you don't know why it's working when it's working, you will not know how to fix it when it breaks. The only way to know why it's working when it's working is to evaluate it. And the best way I know to evaluate experience is to have somebody guide me through that evaluation process. That's what a coach does.
William, since you have been in this industry for over 30 years, are there more coaches today than there have ever been? Because it seems, air quotes to my listeners,
sure,
it seems like there is. It seems like everybody is a coach. It seems like anybody who's aging out and
Right.
Yeah, I got 30 years of experience. I'm going to be a coach.
Once you got some gray, you're there. That's right.
Yeah. Am I correct with that perception, or is that just Keith's perception? That's just an anecdotal piece of evidence that doesn't exist.
No, I think you're right. I think that a whole lot of people have hung out their shingles who 20, 30 years ago, certainly not nearly as many. The internet has made that so prevalent.
And the pandemic accelerated it.
Bingo. Bingo. The last 4 years, I have seen an explosion. And that's great because the fact is, I believe everybody, every leader can benefit from a coach.
Yeah.
And there's no way possible that I can work with as many people as there are. There
Well,
needs to be more, right? That you need more coaches. You need more people who are providing this value and this service to leaders so that they can get better. You know why I work with leaders, Keith?
Tell me.
It's really simple. The reason I work with leaders is because when I help a leader to get better, to grow, and to thrive intentionally, when
Yeah.
I help them to develop and
Yeah.
move toward their capacity,
Yeah.
I don't just help one person.
No. Yeah.
I help every person on their team.
Of course you
I
do.
help every client and every customer they're ever going to serve.
Mhm.
If they're married, I help their spouse. If
Mhm.
they have kids, I help their kids. I help the next generation,
Mhm.
all by helping one person. That's why I focus on and work with leaders.
Yeah. You're leaving a legacy there, right? You're not just hitting one, you're hitting many. So you can step back and say, yeah, I worked with that organization
Yes.
through the lens of that human being leading it.
Bingo.
Yes.
Bingo.
Yeah. Yeah. When I hang on that comment of there appears to be more coaches than ever,
Mhm.
it almost speaks to the world of machines and AI we're living in right now more than ever, that
Sure.
there's humans wanting to connect with humans more than ever.
Yeah, exactly.
It's that need for, I really want William's connection to help me
Yeah.
more so than, I know I get the chat GPT tool. That's great. But I'd like that human to, sure, I got 5 minutes to get that work done, but I need William's help to talk this thing through.
And that is so often how my clients utilize me. They
Yeah.
want to talk through, they want a thinking partner. They want somebody that they can bounce ideas with.
Yes.
And they need somebody who understands what they're doing enough to where they can talk intelligently about it. And we realize, entrepreneurs in particular realize this, that so often this is not a spouse, right? Your spouse is supportive and they're encouraging you, hopefully, and they're cheering you on, but they are not your business partner most often. And this is why it's helpful to have somebody else that you can bounce these ideas off of who's going to help you think this stuff through. Processing verbally is very helpful for most people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, I could not agree more with you. I know I have found, so in my previous business, I had a partner and it was as much no, he was my business partner, but it was very much what you talked about, right? Which is collaborating, ideating, throwing
Yes,
ideas, starting a conversation on a Monday and figuring out the answer by Friday or not until the next Monday. No different than yourself with your customers, isn't it?
absolutely. Absolutely. Sometimes it takes weeks of processing before we get to a breakthrough moment. But when you do, when the client breaks through to that understanding or that awareness that they did not have before,
Mhm.
you can just watch the growth. You can just watch the effectiveness of that
Yeah.
leader skyrocket.
Yes.
And that fires me up.
Of course.
That's why I do what I do,
Of course.
because I love to see that, because when that happens, there are ripples.
Yeah.
And like we talked about a minute ago, those ripples touch so many people.
Isn't it fun when you see the light go on?
Yeah, that's my favorite. I love to see the light, whether I'm speaking and I'm seeing
Yeah.
the lights go on when I'm speaking, or
Yes.
I'm in a conversation like this, or whether it's even people who I just before this, somebody commented on LinkedIn and tagged me in a post, and they had heard a teaching I had done for a group of marketing agency owners. And they were
Yes.
saying, "Hey, this was my big takeaway." I could see the light go off in her eyes while she was talking about this. And I thought, yeah, love that. So
Yeah.
excited you walked away with that.
Yeah.
You know, that is so rewarding. It's just it's incredible blessing.
William, do you see a time where you scale yourself? And maybe you've already done this
Mhm.
as a coach using AI and using those tools for your basically
Oh,
recreating William too. And so I have the ability to connect with William when so William's busy with Keith right now, but William's created an agent to talk to my friend Maurice, because Maurice really wants to talk to William. So William's got 30 years of experience. He's built a bot of himself. We can do this. I have built this before.
yeah.
I've built a version of myself and of others before. I'm not expressing an unreal idea.
Right.
What is your POV on it?
Boy, it that's a great question.
Yeah,
Nobody has ever asked me. You never get the right answer unless you ask the right question.
that's right. Exactly.
I think that there is something that is unreplicatable digitally
Mhm,
that occurs with people.
mhm.
And I use AI tools, no doubt. I
Sure.
use AI tools when I'm meeting with a client to record.
Of
I use
course.
so that it's helping to summarize, capture the notes so that I can
Yes.
focus on that person.
Yes. Yes.
Can a bot focus on you like I can?
Yeah. So let's
I
let's
wonder.
let's talk about this. So have you spent? So you said you've used the tools. Have you spent any time with Chat GPT on your
Oh
phone
yeah, absolutely.
and talking to it?
Sure.
I found, so I know that the latency sometimes bothers me. It's not the end of the world.
Right.
It still is quite an exceptional experience
Oh,
sitting back, and so I'll often at the end of the day sit down and say, okay, here's my day, and let's talk it through, dump it into a conversation, and then go back and analyze it.
mhm.
There's something quite powerful about that, knowing that it's only going to get better.
Oh, absolutely. It's journaling at a different level,
Bingo. That's exactly it, isn't it?
right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. It's journaling with somebody who's helping you journal.
bingo.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
My question is,
Yes.
what lens is that bot looking at your life and life in general through?
Yes.
What lens, what worldview are we applying to your perspectives?
I think what's interesting to me, William, is do you have children?
I do. Two daughters, one in college and one in high school.
Okay. Your daughter, you're going to be a grandparent one day. I'm going to suspect, or I'm going to speculate, or who knows? But let's just
Yeah,
speculate that you become a grandparent one day. I think your grandchildren, my grandchildren, I have three children. One's 8, who's growing up as an AI child. Now that I think
mhm,
about it, the first time I said it, she's Generation AI.
sure.
She has seen me sitting down talking with Pi.
Yeah,
She has seen me sitting down with talking with GPT-4.
mhm,
That's normal to her.
mhm,
Where to you and I, it's not.
mhm,
So
right.
while generationally we perhaps struggle with these concepts,
Mhm.
it's hard not for me to imagine her and others connecting and forming connections
Mhm.
with those agents in time.
It may be. It may very well be. I certainly enjoy telling Alexa what to do.
You're talking about Alexa.
I'm talking about Amazon's Alexa. There are incredibly valuable tools that AI has given us
Mhm.
that enable and equip us in a supporting role.
Yes.
Is it possible to take 30 years of a knowledge base? Is it possible to take being able to read body cues and facial expressions? Is it possible for a bot to be able to lens all of that together and help you in the same way that somebody like me does? That's the question that I heard, and I'm not sure. I'm just not sure. Maybe at some point we get there. I think we're quite a ways off yet.
Yes, this is interesting to me because while I want to agree with you, so the logical side wants to agree with you.
And that's where I operate from. So just so you know,
Yeah.
I'm coming from that logical place.
Yeah. And
That's my natural bent.
the logical side absolutely agrees with you.
Yeah.
But the realistic side of me
Yeah.
doesn't agree because I believe that it's inevitable that, yeah, your 30 years, my 50 years of experience packaged up. We see the power of the cameras on it's not unfathomable for me to think of a machine could look at you and I right now, observe what we're doing, listen to our conversation, understand the intonations of our experiences, see our expressions, and reasonably come up with a description of our conversation right now, like a human being would be. Yeah, William was laughing, had some humor, and so that does not seem unfathomable to me.
Yeah, I get it, and I'm not saying it's not fathomable. If I've learned one thing in my years of life,
Yes.
is never say something is not possible, because boy, life will bend that one right back at you.
Especially when humans are involved.
Seriously, and we're about
Yes.
the most unpredictable things I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's part of what I struggle with because I've worked with computers since I was a kid. I took
Mhm,
apart my first computer when I was 8.
mhm.
Like, I understand how that world
Okay,
works.
so you get it all. Yes.
I just don't see that is a purely analytical, logical creation, the
Yes.
computer.
Yes.
You and I are not.
Right.
Like, we are not logical. and we make decisions that are not logical. We have intuition. And the intuitive side is the part that I struggle with. I do not see intuition there. And I
Yes.
don't know how
Yeah.
you program intuition. And so many of the conversations I have,
Mhm.
that is a tangential element to just about every conversation. It comes back to a leader's intuition.
Well, and yeah, that gut, right? That gut
Yes,
feel, right?
right.
Yes, yes.
What's the gut of ChatGPT?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know how you do that, and maybe somebody will figure it out, and if they do, kudos. That's impressive.
But this is interesting because I'm sure somebody could challenge you and I that what you and I refer to as a gut feeling is just misunderstood data. In other words, we just haven't had the time to understand the data relating to why our gut's feeling this way. So, yeah, you and I have 30 years of experience and wisdom wrapped up in our gut. And I'm not feeling really good about this right now. But a data scientist would say, okay, let's start quantifying that, Keith. Let's
Yeah.
start quantifying that gut feeling of yours so that there is, because there is data attached to everything.
Mhm.
We
Yeah.
just haven't sat down and quantified what that gut feeling actually means, William.
That's true. That's true. If intuition is purely based in data. I don't think it is.
But okay, but perhaps, but it is though, is it not? Because intuition is based on experience, which is data. Intuition is based on what you've read to what you think about is going to be the future, which is data. So I could not argue, but I could discuss with you that perhaps intuition is a data set that we just haven't spent a lot of time understanding or discussing.
And that I'm not going to disagree. That could be true that it's still unexplored. But I will say that based on the understanding I have now,
Yeah.
there's no way to quantify intuition based solely on existing data. Intuition is extrapolation.
Yes.
Extrapolation is based and rooted in data, but you're going beyond the data.
Well, I find it so I like to, again, we're in the business athlete performance
Yeah,
lab. So I like
right.
to attribute the athletic side of things. And over the last, whatever, 20, 25 years, the data, the analytics side of sport has done this.
Mhm,
But yet you talk to any coach
mhm.
and he weighs analytics and then he weighs his intuition, his gut.
That's right. That's right.
Always one. It's another tool, is it not?
Yes, exactly. My daughter plays volleyball,
Okay.
right? And she's gearing up to play in college. And she's talking to coaches and doing the whole analytics thing. All that's our world right now.
Yeah.
These coaches look at the data 100%. They want to see the highlight reel. They want to see the stats. They want to see all that stuff. But and this was a coach she had a conversation with just last week. This coach wants her to come and interact with the team.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because she's measuring chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
All right, chemistry is quantifiable-ish, right? But it's not pure data.
No.
What they're looking for is somebody who's going to be an attribute to the team from an attitude perspective, right? Who's going to mesh well with the chemistry of the other team members.
Mm-hmm.
That's how do you know if that's true or not? The answer is you never fully know. When I'm talking to leaders about hiring, we talk about chemistry. This is one of the 5 C's that I talk about with hiring, chemistry. You've got to evaluate that. But you never know 100%. You're never 100% sure it's going to be a chemistry fit. You might know 70, 75, maybe even 80,
Mm-hmm.
but the rest of it's intuition.
And you have to mix the ingredients for
Yes.
6 months to 12 months to understand if there is going to be any chemistry.
Bingo.
And if you're not willing to make that commitment, there's another C word.
That's right. That's right.
You're gonna get nothing but not failure, but feedback.
That's
Right?
exactly right.
It's man, I never chemistry is a fascinating topic when it comes to organizations and leadership, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah. Because if you have it, you have it. And if
yes.
you don't, you don't.
How often, William, in your experience, is the chemistry led, driven from the leadership, from the boss, from your client? Or how
Mm.
often does it come from within the organization?
To talk about that, I think I need to talk about another one of the 5 C's, which is culture.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe strongly that a leader defines the culture.
100%. No, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that.
The culture is what sets the chemistry.
Yes.
because when you have a certain culture, it allows a certain chemistry or not. And so the culture is really where that starts. And you either, every organization, every team, every business has a culture. You either have one you created on purpose or you have one that you did not, but you have a culture.
Yeah.
Too often, what I find is that people have unintentional, unhealthy cultures because they didn't do it on purpose. Okay, that can be fixed. You just have to choose to make it so. To design an intentional culture means that you're going to say, what is the chemistry that I want to see among my team? For instance, one of the things that I talk with my team about is I want us to be a last 10% culture here. Meaning the first 90% of honesty is really easy for us to give with one another. That's not hard. Everybody does that.
Right.
The last 10% of honesty is what we hold back. And the reason we hold it back is because we don't want to offend. We don't want to break the relationship or damage it in some way. And so we hold back that last 10%. We filter it out.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that last 10% is where transformation lives.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I tell our team is I don't just want the last 10% of honesty from you. I expect it. I'm going to give it to you and I expect it from you because that's how we hit high performance. That's how we hit capacity when we are that type of a culture on our team. And my results that I have seen from that, the results I've seen from our team have been nothing short of astounding since we began to talk in that language. Because we move beyond, let's just, I don't know, I don't want to, I don't want to. Now we move beyond that to, hey, no, this will help us get better. Yeah, you need to stop doing that. You need to not say that ever again. What happens when that's directed at the leader? That's how you get better. You got to put your ego in the back seat and you got to walk in with a teachable spirit. Sorry to come full circle, but it's really there. If you walk in with a teachable spirit into a team that's giving each other the last 10% of honesty, Katie bar the door because you're about to see some growth. You're about to see a culture that's going to blow the doors off.
Yeah, that's some great advice for anybody listening right now because it's you as the leader, you really do set that culture.
Yes.
And I know that's another C word cliche statement.
Yeah.
However, often forgotten
Yeah.
because I'm working with a friend of mine right now. I'm not even officially coaching him. I've never coached anybody actually, just in my business when I was growing it. He says to me, and you're going to resonate with this.
Mhm.
He's scared of the responsibility of success. I know that if I do all these great things that you're coaching me on, we're going to have success. Then I got to deal with all the success. He goes, I'm happy with things right now. He goes, but I want to have success, but then I have to accept the responsibility of that. So if I create a great culture, when he's got a good business, he wants to make it great.
Mhm.
We've talked about culture. We've talked about these things we're talking about right now, chemistry, because some of his team is out of chemistry.
Mhm.
But the concern is the other C word is that if I put a bunch of time into it, I got a bunch of great success. Now I have the responsibility of that success.
Absolutely. And this is a limiting belief that holds so many entrepreneurs back.
Yeah.
They see, oh, this is good. This is good enough. If I go any more than this is going to be bigger. It's going to be more than I really expected or anticipated. That's more work and more responsibility. I don't know if I want to go that far. So I'll just stay here. I'll just stay here. And stasis is a very attractive thing.
Oh, is it ever?
But
Yes.
stasis only exists in a laboratory. It does not exist in the real world. You are either growing or you are shrinking. There's no other options.
Mhm.
And so you get to choose which path you want to be on. What I tell our team is that you never ever drift to excellence. And stasis is an attempt to drift. You never drift to excellence. You drift into mediocrity. Mediocrity inspired no one ever. How do you get to excellence? It takes intentionality. You have to choose for it to be. You have to choose that path. You have to choose that course. When you do, you are saying no to the temptation to drift.
People are so reluctant to disrupt culture, disrupt chemistry because they're afraid to offend somebody.
Sure.
You talked about that final 10%. Give me that extra 10%. Tell me how you really feel, Keith. Don't just tell me what you think I want you to say. You need to tell me what you really feel.
Absolutely.
That can destroy organizations as well, William.
Only if ego and pride have
Mhm.
a higher cultural value than a teachable spirit.
Mm.
If ego and pride are the culture, then yeah, you're going to blow up your company. You're going to blow up your team because you're not built for that.
Mhm.
You're not designed for that.
Mhm.
Conversely, though, if you have a teachable spirit and you've put this in your organization as this is a value here, this is a cultural value for us. This is who we want to be, who we aspire to be. Then the last 10% doesn't threaten you because that's just another opportunity to learn. That's just another opportunity for you to learn something you didn't know before.
Harder to do in big corporations.
Is it?
Ah, I'm going to suggest that it is because there's always the performance plan. There's always the HR saying, okay, let's work with William to do this. Yeah, but William's just not showing up. William's just not drinking the Kool-Aid. William's just not being part of the chemistry. William's bringing his ego to the meetings all the time. William just does not want to bring the spirit that we need him to bring to the table. And does that not kill culture because organizations just stay with stasis?
It can. It certainly can. But that's a choice.
That's
And again, I come back to this
yeah.
choice idea because you can choose, no matter the size of your organization, to value what I'm talking about. And it can trickle from the C-suite all the way down to the front line. Or, which is what most choose, which is the path of drift.
Mhm.
And that's the path of we're going to live by policies, not by people. And that's what you're describing. Like that's where, oh, we got to put it in the performance improvement plan on this person number 1792642.
But HR would say, but no, but we're dealing with the person, William. We're trying to do the best we can for the human being.
Good. Then the best you can for the human being is to listen.
Yeah.
It's to listen. It's to say, what's going on here?
But so rarely done, my friend.
Oh, I know.
Because you got to come to the office. No, you got to do this. You got to do this.
The return to office mandates are a prime example of this.
It's just bizarre to me. I understand why. It's all linked to real estate and real estate values. And there's a whole other underlying. Hey, if you're the CEO of a company that just said, hey, we're building a brand new building in downtown New York City, guess what you're doing? Everybody's going to come back to an office, right? Yeah. And if your building is on the books, your P&L, because it's part of your asset, and there's nobody in it, and your real estate value is down the corner, we all know you got to be in the office.
Right. But then say that.
Exactly.
Then say that. Say this is because we made this investment in real estate and our intent is to offload it as fast as we can because the world has changed. Until then, we need your help.
We need your help.
This is positioning and framing.
Yes.
When you frame conflict, so often it's me against you. And we got our dukes up, we got our gloves on, we're ready to go.
Yeah.
Okay. Instead, what if as leaders we framed it as me and you versus the problem?
Yeah.
Hey, we've got this issue, we got this challenge. We can overcome it. We see a path forward, but I need your help. I need you on the team to help us get from here to where we want to be. Will you join me? That comes off a completely different way than get your butt back in the office.
Yeah. I laugh because we're coming out of an era of DEI. DEI seems to have collapsed around North America, which is thankful, I think, actually, because I think it did the wrong things. We spent too much time focusing on trying to correct issues that there's no question were there, but at the expense of everything else. Yeah. And one of them was this remote work thing. You want to talk about the ultimate in exclusion?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no inclusion with office mandates or non-office mandates like that. There's no DEI with that.
Right.
At all.
Too many companies were trying to live in reaction mode.
Yes.
They were just reacting to the circumstances around them
instead
of pausing and saying, hang on, how do we move to the proactive side of this? How do we get on the other edge of this? What if we ask the question, what is the best thing for the business? What is the best thing for our team? What is the best thing for our mission going forward? What if we talked about those things? What if we evaluated a forward path based on those things? I'm not saying ignore the bottom line. You're not a nonprofit. You exist to make money, and that money provides jobs, and that trickles down in so many different ways. But think about this for a minute. If you're just going to be coming off like a jerk, no, get back to the office because that's the way we do it here, which is how so many companies chose to do it. If you're going to operate that way, then what you are basically saying to the people who work on your team, people who are part of your organization, what you're basically saying to them is, I don't care. I don't care that you don't want or like this. I don't care that your work life balance was better working at least partially remotely. I don't care. And when you tell people you don't care about them, they will leave.
Then those same leaders are wondering why people are quiet quitting.
It's not complicated.
It's not. And in a world where more people have the side hustle than ever, or more people are quiet quitting than ever, more of the knowledge workspace can sit at their desk at company ABC in downtown Manhattan and work for company C, not even knowing it. Like it's quite unfortunate, frankly.
It is. It absolutely is. But again, I'll say that's a choice.
Yes.
And it's a choice that you and the people who are listening can make for yourself and your company. And you can choose something different. People most often do not leave jobs, they leave bosses.
100%.
You know why they leave bosses? Because they don't feel valued,
Yeah.
they don't feel listened to. That is 100% inside of your locus of control for your team and 100% inside mine for my team. We can choose to do this differently if we choose to make it so.
William, before we begin to wrap up our conversation here, what's the as a coach with all the experience you've had and the hundreds, if not thousands, of people you've mentored over the years, is there one common thread that rises to the top
Hmm.
that's that seems to always rise to the top year after year, leader after leader, whether they're male or female?
That's a great question, Keith. I think I would respond with this. Thinking through these years, I think the thing I would say is that most people start a business or start an organization because they're really good at providing a product or a service.
Mhm.
And as they found success, they have to hire other people to help them with fulfillment. And when they begin to hire other people, those people then look at them as the leader. And entrepreneurs will respond to that in one of two ways, in my experience.
Mhm.
One, they'll say, I don't want to be a leader. I didn't sign up to be a leader. I left that whole corporate thing. And they'll try to flatten the organization where there are no leaders. That's a disaster. That is an absolute disaster every time I've seen that tried. Or they will say, they need me to lead. And they'll try to figure it out. They'll just try to build the plane while they're flying it. And they will end up hitting every ditch along the road as they're trying to drive down it. There's a better way. I see so often people going down those two paths, and that hasn't changed post COVID from pre COVID. That hasn't changed in the last decade or two. People still try to figure it out themselves. And there's a better way. You can leverage the experience and the insights from people who have gone before you and dealt with this. You can learn if you approach this with a teachable spirit and you find somebody to come alongside of you and help you navigate and help you build something that is long term and sustainable and healthy, then you can go the distance. You can build something then that you can either sell one day or however you plan to move on, transition from that. But so often it's the fact that they don't understand how to lead. They
Mhm.
don't understand that leadership is a skill. And like any skill, it can and should be developed.
Yeah, it's a skill that many people who maybe have it take it for granted, and then perhaps don't know how to unlock it or do it accidentally.
There's a leadership gift and there's a leadership skill. And I want to differentiate the two.
Please, yes.
I think a leadership gift is what you're describing. And this is people who intuitively know how to do this. They walk in, they are the leader of whatever room they walk into and have been for most of their life
Mhm.
because they have the leadership gift. They are
Nice.
walking in, they are the leader, and they are acknowledged as the leader by people around them. They are followed by other people because they're leading. That's a gift. The leadership skill is all of the things that help you to take that gift and catapult it into high performance.
Mhm. Mhm.
These are the skills that you learn that
Mm.
if you're not careful, you will learn by trial and error, if you will. Take hiring is not something anybody is born knowing how to do. It's just not. That's a skill. And it's a skill you have to develop. Communication is not something anybody is born knowing how to do. You have to learn it. to learn to become an effective communicator who inspires. That takes practice, that takes skill, that takes developing. It's not just going to happen. You're not going to wake up one day and say, oh, wow, I'm an incredible communicator. I don't know how that happened, but here I am. Nobody wakes up like that. It takes intentional development, intentional skill that you develop over time. So I would differentiate between the two. I think that the leadership gift, some people have, but anybody can develop the leadership skill, whether they have been given the natural gift or not.
That's interesting, William, because it really brings us back to one of the first questions I asked you, which was that 20-year-old leader compared to 50-year-old leader has not had as much time to learn his skills.
That's right.
Now, I'm going to contradict myself and say that perhaps you haven't. But if you haven't, I would encourage you to sit down and watch the series Quarterback on Netflix.
Oh,
And you look at those quarterbacks of NFL football teams,
yeah.
all in their 20s. They're leaders. They walk in the room as a leader.
Yeah.
But they have to develop that leadership skill week after week, learning the playbook and leading their teammates to succeed.
Yes.
So so when you explain it to me, I think of a quarterback, because on the raw sense, their charisma is what got them there anyways.
Yes.
But they really have to work hard at that skill to become the best leader, to lead those other 50 odd human beings on the field to win the game.
That's right.
It's the same thing, isn't it?
100%. I love that. I love that example.
That's awesome. What was the instrument that fell over?
I'll let you know. I'm not sure. Sorry about that.
Oh, I love it, man. I love it. I just love it. I love it. I'm going to keep it for the show too. And what's funny, if we can stay on the sports analogy too, William, is that typically, as we know, as quarterbacks age, they get even better. Like you look at Tom Brady, because his leadership charisma moved to leadership skill over the years. You take his charisma, you take his skill, put it into a blender, you create one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time.
And when did he stop learning? Never. How many coaches did he have?
Yes, plenty.
In different areas, helping him see what he could not see himself.
Yes.
You would think at a certain point, you're like, oh, I know everything I need to know. I can see everything I need to see. And yet the highest performers in any field realize you can never stop learning. You can never stop growing. You can never stop gaining a better awareness and understanding of who you are and how you can lead better.
Yeah. Never stop learning with William Attaway. William, we're going to wrap it up to say goodbye here. We've been doing this for plus my monologue, it's going to be over an hour when it's all said and done. What can we leave the audience with from you to make sure the audience knows about you, where to find you? Perhaps there's something I have not asked you about that you wanted to discuss today or promote or put on the table. Now is your time to make sure that who's listening right now or watching us learns what they need to learn from William Attaway today.
I really appreciate that, Keith. I would love if your listeners would connect with me on LinkedIn. You can look for William C. Attaway on LinkedIn. And I'd love to connect with you and hear what you found most helpful from what we've talked about today. I'd also love to give you a copy of my latest book, Catalytic Leadership. I published this in 2022, and it captures 12 principles that I've gleaned from my decades of coaching leaders, 12 themes that I've seen run through so many of those conversations that I want you to benefit from. You can go to catalyticleadershipbook.com. And if you're willing to pay the shipping, I'll get that book right out to you. Awesome. That's awesome, William. Hey, audience, you heard him. If you're willing to pay the shipping, he's going to get it off to you right away. William Attaway, thanks for joining me today live in the lab. I'm going to stick you back in the green room, and I'm going to say goodbye to the audience and come back and walk you out. Sounds great. Thanks so much for having me on the show, Keith. Absolutely. Hang tight, my friend. Hang tight, hang tight, hang tight. Boom. There we go. What a great conversation. I got to admit, when I came into it today, didn't know we were going to go. I saw William's resume. I saw his profile, and I'm like, wow, we got a lot of good things we can talk about. And as audience, I try to come unprepared. Nah, I try not to put too much structure and script around it, because I think what we all like to hear is good, organic, open conversation from interesting people. And that's what we do here in the lab. Interesting people, interesting conversations, 7 days a week. You know where to find me. LinkedIn, X, YouTube. Oh man, Instagram, Facebook. We're streaming everywhere now. All over the fucking place. All over the internet. Live in the lab, Keith Bilous. I will see you guys tomorrow. I am out of here.